Well, we used to train at numerous amounts of gyms, that being one of them. But, you know, most people that would go to these gyms would look at like what you were doing or what we were doing and be like, what the fuck are these guys doing? And it can feel intimidating, and if you don't anchor yourself to something, and I think what you anchored yourself to was like this undeniable like drive to want to be successful and for people to see you as being successful. If you don't anchor yourself to something like that, then it's very easy for you to like take a back seat and, you know, just be like, oh fuck this isn't for me, I can't handle it and not do it anymore.
Well, ultimately it's the framework a be do have, and I think the reality is that people often try and stop you doing things, and they'll ask why you're doing something, but then 5 years later they'll ask you, how have you done this?
Well, why do you think that is? Why do you think it's human nature that people do that? Because we'll probably get on to talking about being in Dubai, but especially in the UK, like you get that all the time.
So the UK, apologise for anyone, is a rife cesspit of bullshit. So, and I can kind of give an example of this, but why I think it's like that is people throw shit at people who are doing things that they cannot do because it creates insecurity for them, and they realize they're getting left behind or someone's trying to step above the parapet. And ultimately that's a choice, and there's an expression I like is the world's a mirror, not a window. So it's a reflection of people's own insecurities of why they lash out or why they try and talk down. The only exception I would maybe give that to some regard is like parents. So your parents by default are trying to keep you safe. So they want to keep you in the safest position as possible, lowest risk. Not necessarily a bad thing from their perspective, but the biggest success and the biggest wins in life don't come with no risk. So you have to have an element of being able to tolerate risk. And also with great risk comes great reward, but also with risk comes work ethic, because you also know the consequence of this fucks up, which means you kind of got to have you can't be half pregnant, you got to be all in.
And do you think that it's exacerbated by the fact that the fitness industry is a pretty like self-centered, vain place to be? So when you're looking at somebody who's not only probably 10 steps ahead of you in regards to their physique, but also 10 steps ahead of you in regards to like where they're at in life or business, like can you think of a time when you were of that mindset where you would look at someone and be like, oh, what, like, why the fuck are they doing that? Why can't I do that?
I've never had the mentality of why I can't do that. I've had the mentality of how I can do that. And I can remember something distinctly. I thought about this the other day. So I was coached by Jordan Peterson, as you know. I remember when I was working my full-time job, I was like trained by JP website, I had like 5,000 members at maybe £5 a month. They were making like 25 grand a month. I was like, that's fucking insane. At the time that like perplexed my brain. I was like, that's mental. And I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, that's not necessarily a lot of money to me now. But also shows how kind of things change in terms of perspective. Now that's because of what I'm exposed to and what I have been exposed to the last few years. But I see people with success of like, okay, he's done that. How can I do that too? Rather than like, fuck that guy. Like he doesn't deserve that. Because one of the things I found, the more success I've had hanging around successful people, there's almost like a code of conduct and respect of like, you both kind of fucking know you've been through the fire and probably been through shit to get to the point you are, because it's like a kind of survival of the fittest who can keep getting kicked in the dick and just keep going and just not fucking care, which is also why I think on the other end of the spectrum, a lot of the people who become successful tend to be kind of a bit emotionally dead inside, because they have to create that emotional stability to not react about fucking Janet at the co-op who's making a video about you or whatever it might be.
And okay, and one more question for you then. You're talking about being kicked in the dick. What do you feel is the biggest kick in the dick that you've experienced since trying to start out in this game?
Quick. Now, if you enjoyed this clip and you're a coach, creator, or a business owner and you want help in terms of how to scale your business using ads, AI, content, marketing, a lot of things we talk about on the show, then hit the link at the top line of our description in the YouTube video. You can book on a call with us and we'll walk through the whole process, audit your business, and show you where there's huge, huge opportunities for you to scale.